How's everybody doing? Good. I mean, a lot of you guys know me, but a lot of you guys don't either. This is, I started fishing back when we did club derbies out of the Bruce Post about 25 years ago. So I went from doing club derbies to fishing some Michigan Tour events, which I won a bunch of championships and a bunch of the qualifiers, and then moved on to a bunch of the national events. So I fished all the guys you see on TV, Parsons, Cavias, all those guys. I know all those guys, and I fish against them. But you don't see me on TV a lot because I have a regular job too, so sometimes you have to work. So, but to do this, I've been able to travel around the country and fish all over. And I mean, the tournaments is where we learn how to do things and kind of step out of our comfort zone. And what a lot of guys don't realize here on Lake St. Clair is our fishery is so diverse that you learn things here that some parts of the country people never get to learn. And a lot of, like fishing in Minnesota, those guys don't ever get to pull boards. And when we first went to Wisconsin, they didn't even know what a planer board was. They looked at us and were like, what are those yellow things you guys are dragging around? They didn't even know. So it's, I've been with offshore for about 25 years, ever since I can remember. And we worked with them on part of the stuff with the telltale flag and the different clips and all that kind of stuff. So now this is just the basic walleye board, just the medium-sized ones. You know, they make big ones for fishing for steelhead and salmon or muskies. They make little crappie boards for fishing inland lakes, and a lot of crappie guys down south. But 90% of us here, we're going to use this main board. Now our trolling equipment here is pretty simple. This is a 8.5 foot Denali trolling rod, and I just have a regular Daiwa line counter. The line on it, I think I'm running 10-pound test. I mean, pretty easy stuff, right? Just regular monofilament, not fluorocarbon. I'm not a fluorocarbon fan. You hear all these guys, yeah, you got to run fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon's expensive, and I lost a lot of big fish on fluorocarbon because you can't tie the knots very well. It doesn't knot up. So I am not a fan of fluorocarbon. I've lost a lot of money when I first came out trying to use it. So I figure if a walleye could get caught in a gill net and we eat him in a restaurant, then with monofilament, they're running monofilament, then we should be okay fishing for them. So the trolling rods here, hold on, this fence. A lot of the trolling rods that they want to sell you all the time, you go to Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's and all that kind of stuff, are real stiff, real heavy. They're almost like a big heavy salmon rod. But we've kind of transitioned away from all that because you fight those big fish in, and where are you going to lose them? You're not going to lose them way out on the board. You fight the fish in, take the board off, start pulling up, you get close to the boat, and where do you lose them? Right next to the boat. We lose them next to the boat because the rods are too stiff. So we got with Denali and even Cabela's and Bass Pro, we're trying to get them to change up some of their rods so they're real soft on the end. This Denali rod is real soft. I mean, it's really has a great, real soft tip to it. So when those fish are up by the boat, that fish wants to make a big run, you've got a little bit of absorption to it. If it's real stiff, that's why you lose those fish by the boat. That, and we run monofilament on our rods. We don't run Fireline. I know some of the guys are like, well, you can troll with Fireline, you'll never have to change your line. But you lose a lot of fish with Fireline too, because as you hook those fish up and they start fighting, shaking back and forth, they'll actually open their mouth up and they'll make a hole in the side of their mouth, and you'll lose the fish on that. And then definitely when you're by the boat with the Fireline with no stretch, that fish goes to make a dive down, you'll lose them right there. So that's why we run monofilament. Now, I used to run really heavy line. The guys used to actually make fun of me because back in the day at Lake St. Clair, we ran like 14 or 17-pound tests. That's what we all did. So when I went out west, they're like, what kind of line you guys got on there? I'm like, yeah, you hook a cattail up or something fishing shallow, you just pull it out of the bottom, right? No big deal. 17-pound test, you can do a lot of torque in that stuff. But the water was a lot dirtier back then. So we've transitioned to a lot lighter line. I know a lot of the guys that I fish with, they'll actually run 8-pound tests on their trolling rods. And it always scares me. You think you're going to break a lot of lines, hook some big fish, but they never, with these soft tip rods too, they never break any lines. So don't be afraid to run really light line. Now, does everybody know how to run these boards? Some, a lot of the guys do, but does everybody run these a lot? Everybody looks pretty familiar with it. I know some people are like, hey, how does it go on the line? You're like, it just snaps on.
Show us.
So here's my spinner. I'm going to run a weight up in front of it to get it down, whether it is a inline weight or a snap weight or actually a bottom bouncer like Spencer has in his hand. You can put that on too. You run that down to whatever distance you want back. So how deep you want it. The farther you go back, of course, the deeper it gets, the heavier your weight, the deeper it gets, all that. Like he has a bottom bouncer here. A lot of times I'll run a bottom bouncer on my inside rod. It's like back in the day we used to run them off the boat. Now I drop it down, like touch bottom, and I'll put it on the board. That's where the line counter comes in. You clear that off to 0, you let it go down, touch the bottom. If it's 25 feet, I'll put the board on. So then all we do is just clip it on. Hard to do with the mic. But then you always leave a little space in between. So and then we're just going to let the board out nice and slow. And it'll just walk out. I mean, we can go out 100 feet. As long as you can see that little flag up, you can just keep going. And in the real clear waters, those you want it way, way away from the boat. Then you just watch the flag. There was a bunch of the club members back in the day like, oh, I don't need those telltale flags. I know when it's got a fish on. And then a couple meetings later, they're like, yeah, so where do you get those telltale flags from? Last thing you want to do is drag around a 4-inch perch on your spinner or something 100 feet from your boat. So these telltale flags are spring-loaded and they're actually adjustable. So you can adjust it where you want it so it's really soft. So anything touches this spinner at all, this flag's going to go down. Most of the time you'll see the flag go down before the board even starts to go back. So you'll know you have, and you can see, it's almost like fishing a bobber back in the day. You'll watch the flag go down, come up, go down, and then lock up. And then by the time then you have the rod in your hand and you just kind of let it fade back a little bit, and then we hook them up. Now I don't let the board come off or turn around. Some guys put the real light clip up front, so when you grab it, the board will pop around and just lay flat, but I just leave it right on. This is connected all the way up till you get up to the boat. Once it gets up to the boat, then we just pop it off nice and easy and just keep tension on the fish. Then it's just you and the fish. And if it's a really big fish, if I'm in a tournament, it's a really big fish, I'll shut the boat right off. I'll just let it drift. Because again, we know when we're going to lose those fish, it's going to be right next to the boat. So I'm going to make sure I slow the boat right down to nothing. I'll have my bow mount off, and I'll bring that fish straight up. So at least if anything happens, it's going to be right here next to the boat. If you're running pretty fast and you got a really big fish on and you're trying to pull him in and he's from here to the gentleman there, my net's not that big. I can't get that far. And I've leaned off the back of the boat a few times that I was trying to get those big fish, and I gave up on that. I'm like, that's it. If it's a big fish, got a big fish on, or you hook a big muskie or something, I'm not going to try to drag that, 30-pound muskie with my, my crawler gear up by the side of the boat. You just can't get them in. The fish are too big. So I just shut it off, get it up, and get the fish next to the boat. So pretty simple stuff. Now, a couple of gentlemen asked me about tangled lines and having problems running too many boards. What we do in Lake St. Clair, as long as you're not running 1,000,000 feet of line, the more line you have out, the more problems you have. So guys are like, I'll run a little 1/4 ounce weights. It's like, why? If I can run an ounce weight, why would I want to run a 1/4 weight, right? The less line off the board, the better. The better hook sets, the better control of the fish you have. So running the little tiny weights is just more of a pain than anything else. But on my outside boards, I'll run those with just an inline. Right, like fishing in Canada, we're running 1 ounce like 30 feet back. But now, we're running 6 rods. If I got me and my 2 boys with me, my inside ones I'll run bouncers, and I'll run 1.5 ounce or 2 ounce bouncer. Go ahead and snap it on. I run a little clip on the line here. It's we get them. I think I bought some at Lakeside Tackle And I think I got these out of Hagen's. It's almost like an oversized clevis. And you can snap the bouncer right on. Yeah, and you're younger than me. You should be able to see that, Spencer. I'll run these. This is a 2-ounce bouncer, and it's real tall. I'll run these real closer to the boat. So when I hook a fish on the outside, I don't have to adjust anything. Let that fish swing around the back and pull it in the back. Since this one doesn't have 30 feet of line on it, it might only have 20 feet of line or 18, then I'm way closer. And just because it's a bouncer doesn't mean it has to bounce on the bottom. A lot of times, our best combination of fishing out here in Lake St. Clair is when I drop this down real slow with the line counter and I just touch the bottom with it. Just touch it. Put the board on. So the spinner starts to run about maybe 4 feet off the bottom. And remember, most of the walleyes are looking up. They feed up, so they'll come up and take it. This was our best rig in Canada last year. We were over there on the Canadian side. This was just insane. I don't know if you guys got to see us. We went with Jenny Olson on that when we fished May Madness, and we had probably 30 pounds of fish on Friday. Spencer had a 30-incher over there. It was like, this is going to be good, but the water, our dirty water, got pushed way up the shore, and we probably caught, I don't know how much she showed us what we caught, but I think we probably caught 40 or 50 fish that day. Mm-hmm. So there was the three of us, me, Spencer, and my older one, and it was like a straight Chinese fire drill 24/7. Because every time you get into a pot of fish, you have 3 or 4 fish on at a time. Well, you'd be letting one board out, the other board goes, you hook that one up, let this one go, and it was just like a circle the whole time, the 3 of us. And then Jenny's trying to film, so then we're trying not to hit her with the net, and it was pretty crazy. But we run a lot of spinners in Michigan, in Lake St. Clair for sure. This is a little bit different spinner. I don't think I've showed this to a lot of the guys here. But this is a Smiley blade spinner. It's a little plastic spinner. And what it does is it doesn't give off a lot of flash, but it gives off vibration. Totally different vibration than any other kind of spinner that you run. And I'm not here to sell you guys anything. I'm not sponsored by these guys. And actually, I didn't tell people for a long time that we even use these because a lot of the tournament guys are like, what's that thing going to do? This thing destroys fish. The last 3 tournaments I fished in Green Bay, we just pounded fish on these little spinners, and nobody around us they were barely getting the limit of fish all day, and we were in probably catching 25, 30 walleyes a day. So these things are fantastic. And I know you can get them at Cabela's and Bass and all that kind of stuff. The trick to these is that there's no weight to them. They don't weigh anything. They pull through the weeds. Right, Lake St. Clair, like super simple because there's no weight. So they're not dragging down off your bouncer or off your inline. They're not dragging down. So it's almost level. The only weight on this thing is the 2 little tiny hooks that run off the back. And it spins where you could almost use it for drifting because it'll spin. Hold it tight, Spins. It spins with like almost no movement. These you can blow on it, it'll go. So this thing these are fantastic. So you guys ever get a chance to try something different, this is something you need to try.
You use just a couple beads, or it's made up just with 2 or 3 beads, and that's it?
I buy the blades,
Yeah.
and I put the little stack bead. I just snap the little stack bead inside it.
All right.
What size hook?
I think these are maybe a 2. Something nothing real big because I don't want it to weigh down. We fished these in the rocks in Green Bay, and everybody was complaining because they were getting hung up in zebra mussels and all that kinds of stuff. And this didn't get hung up in zebra mussels, and I said we caught a lot of fish. And I know it works really, really good out here. It works really, really good in the channels. Like in the summertime, you want to fish the middle channel and stuff like that. These things rule.
What did you call them?
It's a Smiley blade.
Smiley what?
Smiley blade. And they're just plastic. But they spin super easy, super nice.
The name of the company is Max.
Yeah, Max Lures.
M-A-C-S. Max Smiley Blade.
And I'll run these off a bouncer all the time. Hey, take that off. Now, I know we run spinners. We're spinner people. This is what we do here in Michigan, right? Lake St. Clair is like notorious for spinners. But I don't know if you guys read the newsletter for this month. I know there was an article in there about catching bigger fish. Guys would go out in the morning, get their fish on spinners, and then upgrade fish all day with cranks. So me and Spencer, we make a point of going out with no night crawlers all the time. We're going to go out fishing. I'm not going to worry about going stopping and getting bait. You can catch as many or more fish pulling cranks. And I know a lot of guys don't want to do it. They're like, oh, it seems like a lot of work. It's actually easier. We're not dealing with a lot of perch. You might catch a few more bass, but it's whatever. It's catching fish, right? And there's nothing you can't do with these boards. So anything that you could put behind your boat and troll, you could actually pull off of a board. And cranks are the best way. I probably spent more time pulling cranks this year than I have in the last 10 years. And I don't know if you remember what some of the stuff Ed Stahowski was saying last month. He's like, get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to be up in like 3 feet of water running these boards. Because that's what we do in Wisconsin. We'll run these boards up into 3 feet. Our baits will only be off the board maybe 6, 8 feet of line. And that's kind of stuff that we don't do here in Michigan. And I know me and Spencer went out last year it was in May, and we came out of the mouth of the Clinton River, and we just made a right turn. And by the time I got to Huron Point, we had 10 fish. 1 pass. Not a boat anywhere. Big boats running back and forth. We were in like 6 feet of water, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah, just destroyed fish. I mean, we're catching pike, and it's like, it was insane.
Your recommendation on the depth of pulling a planer board would be, what, 20 feet max, maybe depth of the water?
You can run these, so that's what I was going to get to, right? Got the snap weight, Spence?
Oh, yep.
See, we also sell these little snap weights that clip on the line.
Yeah.
So you can take this crankbait and you can run it down in 35, 40 feet of water. We do in Lake Erie all the time. And that's something that, what's cool about traveling around that we don't do around here is in Lake Erie, we'll dredge these in the bottom. So I'll let this go back 20 feet. I'll snap the weight on. We always go the same, right? You have to. We're too old to like put stuff back different lengths. That's why we got to have line counter reels so we remember where the heck we were at, and we use the same weights. So if I'm going to use a 2-ounce weight, I'm going to use the 2-ounce weight on all the rods. I'm not going to change up because then you'd be like, "What weight was that? How far back was that?" Yeah, no, man, mess with that. Run all the same weights. I'll run the same baits. If I'm going to run, this is a flicker minnow. If I'm going to run flicker minnows, I'll put all flicker minnows on. Because if I'm running a different bait that starts catching fish, I'm not exactly sure where that bait is at. You know what I mean? So it's we run all the same. So I'll run 20 feet of line, I'll clip the weight on, and then you can let that back sometimes up to 60, 70 feet. Lake Erie, we'll be pulling these crankbaits in the mud in 45, 50 feet of water. And catching all kinds of big walleyes right in the mud. You can go up higher.
Would you recommend that doing in our channels?
I have.
That deep?
Yep, and I've ran them along the edge too, where we ran like along the edge of the weeds,
Yeah.
up to the bottom edge of the weeds, like in the middle channel, and run up along that break there, and just catch all kinds of fish. But this works great. But a lot of the lures, Lake St. Clair is great because it's, I mean, what are we fishing in? 22, 23 feet of water max? Usually the American side we're in, 18, 17 feet? So these lures will go down. So you don't have to run any weights. That's the only great thing about Lake St. Clair. I mean, you go to other parts of the country, Lake Erie, even Saginaw Bay, we'll have to put some weights on to get them down. But you can do it with the board, and you can definitely do it with these snap weights. But the lure I have on here was our #1 lure this year.
Yep. By far.
I think we bought every one that was in the state of Michigan.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
at one point you couldn't buy them online.
It's a flicker minnow, but it's a certain color, right? It's gold, it's got a red hue to it, and it's got a black back. If you see them,
Slick
you
Sunset.
just buy them. Yeah, Slick Sunset. My buddy bought 50 of them. He had a huge box show up. He goes, I just gotta buy them. Because they make this color in the flicker minnow, and they were making them in the flicker shad, but they discontinued it with the flicker shad. So I know we have
bought them out online.
yeah, they're
bought
like,
them out.
we bought every one they had, and then we were fishing up in the rocks, and we kept losing them, so we went to the flicker minnows. But yeah, this thing here, at one point, me and Spencer were in Saginaw Bay, and we were running 6 of them. Same color. And I'm not one to run all the same color, But man, did this thing catch some fish. That's why I brought it today. I had it in the thing. I said, it's a great color.
What's that color called again?
Slick sunset.
Yep, Slick Sunset.
Question for you. You said you ran those up in 3 feet shallow boards. What do you do? Readjust your length on them?
Yeah, so if we're gonna run us in 3 feet, I'm gonna run about maybe 8 feet of line, 6 feet of line.
I was gonna say, if you're set for a deeper depth. then
Yeah,
want
you have to, when you bring them in, change it, yeah. We fished Saginaw Bay this year, me and Spencer, we were catching walleyes in June in 3 feet of water. So I'm figuring we might have been in 4 because your transducer in your boat's about a foot down, so you got to add that in. So there's always a foot more water under your boat than what your your graph says. So we were in 4 feet of water, and we didn't catch 1 or 2. We caught like 30 fish after fish after fish after fish in 3
So are
feet of
you
water.
running a weight on that when you're fishing
No,
that
no.
shallow too?
I was running this back 12 feet. 12 feet. And actually the coolest thing, what they do, Berkeley does, and you can go online and find the depths of all this stuff, how far back to put it back. Berkeley actually puts this stuff right in the package. So, and I mean, again, I'm not sponsored by Berkeley, but I mean, how cool is that? They put everything right in the package, tells you how far back, and your depth charts are right here. So,
Right, so if you have a box full of them, you just glue all the depth charts to the
yeah,
top
we
of the box.
glue the depth charts to the top of the box, or put some tape over them so you can actually see what's going on.
So do you prefer running the weight on them, or you prefer running them without the weight if you can get down to the depth?
Yeah, I would rather run without the weight for the cranks, for sure. Because a lot of times
Less steps.
we're running a lot faster. When we get up in that shallow water and the water's warm, like in the mid 70s, we're probably running 2.5. I mean, we're flying. So you just got to make sure you adjust your drag on your rod, because if you hook a real big fish or something wants to hit and go the other way, you don't want to break anything off. So make sure you put the clicker on, loosen the drag up a little bit, because they do go. When you're fishing super shallow, the fish only have one way to go, and that's the other way. So it's a little bit different. You're fishing 20 feet of water, the fish lock up, they're down deep, so you're hooking them up. They don't have as much movement to really, they'll come up and go side to side, but yeah, when it's shallow, they just fly the other way. But us tournament guys, I have probably, 50 boxes of crankbaits. And I hate
Just
to do that
crankbaits.
kind of stuff. I hate buying new baits, and I was not a fan of the flicker minnow. Not at all. I had like 1 box of flicker shads, and we started fishing them like 2 years ago, and it was just insane. And that's another thing I want to talk about, what Ed Stahowski was saying. When he was talking about fishing, there's some fisheries that go on in Michigan that nobody does. And the one he was talking about, you guys might have thought about, was the fishery from Lexington all the way up to like Alpena. That whole shoreline holds fish. So if it's the holiday weekend and you don't want to go out in Lake St. Clair because there's too much traffic, you can drive up to Fort Sanilac and put your boat in, and there'll be like 3 boats there. And there's fish from that shoreline all the way up. And not out deep, because the water drops off super fast, right? It goes from like, you can fish all the way up into, when we were in June, we were in Port Austin, me and Spencer were fishing in 12 feet of water. Now you know how clear that is, right? You can look right over the side, see the rocks go by. You can see the boulders. And we had our boards running in the shore. So how shallow were we? I was running flicker, shads, like 60 back. And I think I was maybe 8 feet down. And we'd hang up every once in a while.
Yep.
And man, did we catch some serious fish. Not just walleyes, which is cool. We caught lake trout in the summer. We were catching lakers. We were catching whitefish, smallmouth, everything.
What about other colors, the flicker minnows? Do you just use that, or have you had any luck on any other colors?
I've done
that
good
purple.
with the purple one. There's a purple one, purple and got a pink belly. And then there's one that's like a natural perch. Those are about the 3 biggest ones for here. When the water's dirty, there's one that's actually white with purple and pink on it. That one works good. Anytime the water's dirty, white works good. So that's just one of those deals. Well, yeah, so some of the fishing up there. So for years and years and years, and I don't know, we've done it even back in the day, we fished a lot down in Bowles Harbor. You pull up there, and the bait store guy goes, "Yeah, we're catching them on the line." And you watch all the boats drive out all the way to the Ohio border. And me and Spencer are fishing right, we don't even we fire up the big motor just to get out of the harbor and then turn and start fishing. And I just can't believe that in May, everybody wants to run out to 25 to 28 feet of water. I go, why are you guys burning gas and all the fish are on the shoreline? It's May. It's like, and actually we were fishing in 10 feet of water, and I know we could have got up into like 6 or 7 and caught fish. So it's just one of the things that we have to do more as fishermen is to push way up in shallow. Another thing, I don't know if you guys have seen it, that Offshore Tackle came out with is a tuner. These are really cool. I know you've probably seen it, but it's this is pretty neat, right? You have to. Bad thing about crankbaits is if you start catching too many fish, they'll go out of tune. Even these, they'll go out of tune. So you put them in the water before you put it back and give it a pull. If it starts swinging to the side, then you got to straighten it out. Well, first thing we usually do is grab a pair of pliers, because we all have pliers, and we kind of crank the metal eye. Well, it probably isn't the greatest thing for the lure. So Offshore Tackle came out with this little tuner. And all it does is you basically, and I can show you afterwards, is you just line it up on the lure itself, and you just give it a click from the eye, and it just kind of clicks. And it just straightens the eye back up. So whichever way the lure goes, you got to pull the eye back the other way. It's pretty simple stuff. But this thing's pretty neat. So grab that other rod. So what we started to do, and I know Ed talked about it last month, was when we would troll up in Port Austin and Alpena and stuff like that, we were up in that shallow water. So we started casting. And what we would do was, me and Spencer, we'd put 5 boards out with all the cranks running probably like 30, 40 feet off the board, because we were only in 12 to 18 feet of water, and then we would cast. And and we do it on Lake St. Clair a lot too. If I get in a big group of fish, if I go through them and I got 3, 4 fish on at one time, we go back through there again and we'll just cast for them.
Oh, it fell.
And this is really fun stuff. Now when Ed talked about casting a swim bait, this is what he's talking about. I know he didn't bring any stuff to show you guys. This is a big, it's a Berkeley,
I can't remember.
like
We had a bag of it.
shad or something. It's just a power bait, right? This is a 5-inch bait. Now that's a pretty big bait for you to cast for walleyes, right? But it's like no different than the size of the crankbaits that we're using. So same kind of stuff. So I get Spencer in the back of the boat. He's watching the rods. So this has happened this past year. You go up to the front of the boat, and the boat, we're trolling this way, and I just cast at a 45 off the nose. Throw it as far as you can. I mean, we can see right to the bottom. And let that thing hit the bottom, and all I do is I wind it down, and I just lift it up and let it flutter down, and I just walk it in. And I'm telling Spencer, I go, this is how you got to walk these in. I make about 3 pushes, and I can feel it thump on the way back down. So you can just wait, because they got the whole thing, and you're not going to let go of it. And you just wind it down, and then set the hook. And we did the same thing out here on Lake St. Clair. We had a big group of fish. We were catching trolling. We stopped over top of them and started casting. Even when we were out in 18 feet of water, you just cast it out, let it hit the bottom, and kind of yo-yo it back in. And for whatever reason, those fish are sitting on the bottom. When that lure comes fluttering down at their head, I think it's more of a reactionary strike. Either it's going to hit them in the head or they're going to eat it. I think they just automatically just come up and just suck the whole bait in. So this is a great way to fish. It's lots of fun. And it's just like the jigging equipment that you use in the spring in Detroit River. This rod might be a little bit longer. I think it's a 7 foot. But we were using 6.5. It's got our basic 10-pound fire line. And I got about 3 feet of like 10-pound model. I think this is half-ounce jig head with a big sickle hook. But you can actually feel that tail vibrate. When you pull it up, you can feel it. Boom, it goes up and you feel it go down. And for whatever reason, sometimes you can't get them trolling at all. You'll catch a couple. And then you pull this out, and it'll be cast after cast after cast. And you're like, how can I pull through here with my crankbaits and catch 2, and I can catch 15 fish in like 15 minutes casting this stupid thing? So it is a riot. And I says that we do it from Lexington all the way to Alpena all summer. Especially the month of June. The month of June is insane. We start up in shallow, and then towards the end of the month, when the water reaches about 65, we get on the deep break, where she drops from like 23 to like 28 feet. And then we actually were just casting up. Then we were in the deep water, we were casting up in the shallows, and we were walking it down the breaks. And we were catching Lakers, we were catching whitefish, it's unbelievable. And we'd be the only boat there. Because I know we were doing it was the holiday. It was like Memorial Weekend, there's like no one. And I think me and Spencer probably caught 30 or 40 fish, and we had fish up to 9 pounds. So this is a lot of fun, and it's fun catching those big fish on a spinning rod in the summer. You know, we're not all bundled up in Detroit River, you know, freezing, trying to catch a big fish. So lots of big fish all the way up and down that whole shoreline. And we do the same thing up in Escanaba, down the whole shoreline there, all the islands in Little Bay de Noc, Big Bay de Noc. All through there we do this, and that's really, really a lot of fun. And I just wanted to bring this up here so you guys could actually see what we throw. It's really simple and really easy to do, and lots of fun.
Now, the weather condition, in Lake Huron, you'd be westerly type winds, so you wouldn't have the waves coming in from the east or the north?
You know, it didn't matter. Actually, I think the south wind was the best.
Oh,
So we had a south wind that was like pushing down,
yeah.
and all there has to be is just a little bit of movement on top.
Oh, you didn't have no big waves or nothing
No,
like that?
no. But I mean, it's just, you can't imagine the fish. We had so much fun. I mean, we had some big lake trout too. We had lake trout up to like 15 pounds. Don't think those things fight on a spinning rod. It's like, shut the boat off. We can't even get the thing in. The lake trout went the other way. And I go, man, it's a big walleye. Look down, it's got a big white mouth on it. You're like, what the heck is that? It's like, it's a lake trout. And we caught a bunch of them. So it's a lot of fun. And nobody knows about it. There's nobody up there doing it. 1 or 2 boats. And it's like, you know, you guys got to give that a try. It is something special. And it's nice to get on that before, you know, there's a bunch of boats out there doing it. So, and definitely when it's like, you know, Lake St. Clair on the weekends are a little tough to fish, and you drive up there and you pretty much have your pick of the spot. So, anybody have any questions?
How often do you adjust that flag on the board?
I have a specific set that I use for spinners, real soft, and then I'll usually move it down 2 notches for cranks. But if like it depends on where I'm going. If I'm running those big reef runners, or I'm trying to like drag the bottom in 50 feet, I might move it even higher yet. But in Lake St. Clair, I usually set it really soft because of the weeds and all the other stuff. I want to see what's going on. The last thing I want to do is put 6 boards out and have the outside one get a 2-foot weed on it. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're just wasting your time, or a little 6-inch perch. So I want to see everything. So I'd rather have the flag set, even if it's like only it may be halfway pulled down already. You know, before I get it out, it's like, okay, it's like, you know, I know it's clean when I put it in the water. So if it's setting at a certain distance, it's okay. I just want to know if anything on it at all, that flag goes down. Any more questions?
Yeah, I got one. You're talking about trolling cranks in like the channel and the river. I did a little bit of experimenting with that last year, and I caught some fish. But I mean, I have that can go 115 feet back to get down 20 feet.
Yeah, that's the only problem with the river.
You're
You know what I
going
mean?
downstream too, right?
Yeah, you have to kind of go downstream. I mean, you can go upstream at the mouths. You know, middle channel. I've fished that upstream before, but most of the time you're pulling down.
Yeah.
But it's easier just to do, you know, pull the cranks out in the lake. You know, if you're catching fish in the river, like South Channel, all those fish are going to run down the channel banks all the way down.
Right.
You know, some of our best fishing last year has been just at the very top of the channel, just on the American side of the channel, from the buoys all the way down the St. Clair Lake, because there's like a big set of weeds that go all the way down there, and that's 16 to 18 feet. And you can pull cranks out there, I think, all year. We started second week of May, and we did that all the way until August. And lots of fish. So it makes it just, sometimes it's better to drive a little bit to make it easier on yourself.
I was pulling both harnesses and that. I'm just experimenting.
Yeah, but you know, those Smiley blades, those things work great going down current. I mean, they are, because they don't really weigh anything. You know, so you're not hanging up on the bottom, and it's not, doesn't have a real big drag, so you can pull that down really easy.
Oh, and another, how long of a lead did you have on that? It looked like it was almost 6 feet.
Yeah, well, it depends on where I'm at. If the water is super clear, I'll run them out to 5-6 feet. But usually they're like 4 feet. I don't think the walleyes are too much bouncer shy. So.
When you guys
fish on the Canadian side of the lake. Are we supposed to take one of the hooks off our cranks? To only have 2 hooks on a crankbait? Or
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, usually you gotta take, if you're gonna go on Canada and run a big crankbait that's got 3 hooks, you gotta take one out. That's why this, the flicker minnows come in like 3 different sizes, and the number 9s have 2 hooks. I think the number 11s have 3.
Yep.
No, 11's have 2 loads.
Do they have 2?
The 12's have 2.
Yeah, so I mean,
Like
it's,
your bandits and stuff have 3.
right, yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
same
you
with-
go over there, you gotta take.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you take out the middle?
Yeah, always take off the middle.
What would be your first choice for a port to go on Lake Huron? If you were gonna go for Memorial Day? Lexington, Sand Lake, Harbor Beach, which one do you like the best?
In May, first part of May, it would probably be Lexington, but in like the end of May, I'd be up at like Port Austin, because then you're getting fish coming from the St. Clair River and coming from Saginaw Bay. So there's a big group of fish in Port Austin. And then in Port Austin, you don't have to go anywhere. You could basically put the boat in and like drive out to the lighthouse and start fishing.
Are you still in 20 feet of water in Port Austin?
Mm-hmm. Port Austin drops off pretty fast, but the shallow water is right by shore. We fished it last year. I never even fired up the big motor. I just ran out on my electric, got the lines all out, got out to 17 feet of water, turned the boat down. I think the second fish we caught was like, 7 pounds. I go right in front of the harbor. So there was no one.
Usually go to the left or to the right?
Both. Anytime you see those big rocks up there, that's where you want to throw into. So it's really crazy fishing when you can see the bottom all the way to shore, and then your boards are inside there and you're catching fish on them. We're just not used to that. From fishing down here, we don't fish that way, so. But it's cool. All right, well, me and Spencer will be over here. If anybody has any questions or want to see anything, just come on over and hang out.
Thank you for speaking.
No
Got a
problem.
little gift pack for you, some hats and shirts,
Sweet.
and a little compensation for your time.
All right, thanks. I'm going to bring a set of boards, stuff like that, for the raffle table for next month.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys.